Hey everyone, today we're going to talk about differential reinforcement. My name is Jennifer Thacker. Along with me is Brittany Frideley, Taylor McCorckle, and Darene Womble. The goal for today is that by the end of the presentation, you will be able to demonstrate your knowledge of the different types of differential reinforcement and how they are implemented by answering a series of multiple choice questions. The agenda for this discussion will discuss what is differential reinforcement, the 4 different types of differential reinforcement, the components of each. We'll show you videos demonstrating implementation. We'll do a couple of knowledge checks and make sure you listen for those code words. So first and foremost, what is differential reinforcement? It's a technique used to apply reinforcers in an effort to reduce interfering behaviors. Behaviors like hitting, yelling, tantrums, and at the same time increase appropriate behaviors, resulting in a successful teaching environment to facilitate learning for all students. The goal of it is to reinforce target behaviors that are more ecologically valid.
Hey y'all, this is Brittany, and I will be talking about differential reinforcement of other behaviors, also known as DRO. DRO is reinforcement delivered for any appropriate behavior that you reinforce anytime an undesirable behavior is not emitted and it's during a specific amount of time. To apply DRO, you just select the time, and any appropriate behavior exhibited at the end of the time interval is reinforced as long as the unwanted behavior did not occur. There's both fixed and variable schedules of DRO. Fixed is where the time remains the same across the trials, and variable is where the interval time varies across trials. The procedures for DRO is to select that initial interval time, and then you should be able to gradually increase the interval time as the on-task behaviors occur. Remember to reinforce at the end of the time interval only if the undesirable behavior does not occur and appropriate behavior does. Also, DRO can be used in tandem with other reduction procedures to help increase its effectiveness. The effectiveness is that it has been used and proven effective for a wide range of learners, children anywhere from the ages of 4 to 12. It can also be used in a variety of settings, such as a classroom or at home. And it does meet the criteria for an evidence-based practice based on 6 single subject design studies. And I'm going to show you a video, and Harvey's given dominoes. You're going to see that he plays with them. The maladaptive behavior that they're trying to extinguish is throwing. So she's going to give him a time interval, and then if he does not throw them, then he'll get a reinforcer.
So the intervention that we're going to record this time is DRO, so differential reinforcement of other behaviors. I am going to offer to start a timer to see if Harley can go without exhibiting behavior for 1 minute by playing with his dominoes, and if he can, his reward will be in minutes. So here's the behavior. All right, Harley. I am going to set the timer for 1 minute. If you can play with these dominoes the correct way and not throw them, then I'll give you some M&Ms at the end of the 1 minute, okay? And go. right, very good job. So thank you for not throwing the dominoes. You did much better at this than you did last week. So here are your M&Ms.
All right, so you can see that that is DRO. She reinforced the behavior of him playing with the dominoes, stacking them, whatever he would like to do, as long as he did not throw them, which he didn't. So he got the reward of M&Ms. Now, for a knowledge check for DRO, it's a fill in the blank. It says reinforcement occurs at the end of DRO time interval blank if undesirable behavior blank blank occur and appropriate behavior blank occur. You can take a minute, pause, and answer this question. All right, so the answer would be B. You reinforce only if the undesirable behavior does not occur and appropriate behavior does occur.
Howdy, y'all. This is Brittany. Differential reinforcement of incompatible behavior, also known as DRE, probably the easiest differential reinforcement that there is, because basically you take the behavior you don't want to happen and you pick the other one, and then you reinforce the other one and ignore the bad one. It can be implemented anywhere. As an example, Bobby's throwing his toys. When Bobby's playing with his toys, instead of throwing them, he gets attention. That's what he wants. When he is throwing them, the teacher doesn't give him attention. DRI, yeah, it's a positive way to reduce the presence of an inappropriate behavior. So there's always going to be something that the kid can do other than what he shouldn't do. If the child can't do both, he's forced to do what he can do just to get his reinforcement. So when you look at how to implement DRI, you identify the behavior that needs to be changed, and then you think about what the opposite behavior is. So every time the child does the opposite, you reinforce it. Every time the child does the undesired behavior, you ignore it. So there's an example listed there, which is, you know, a good example of how you implement DRI. Here's a video example where a student is exhibiting an inappropriate behavior. The teacher will ignore the inappropriate behavior, but then they will reinforce the appropriate behavior.
What's your morning? Fine. Very good. Now we will talk about what is this? Yes, Khalid. It's a flower. Very good, Khalid. This is a flower. What is it again? Flower. Very good. Now we will talk about the parts of a flower. You color. It's running again. This is what you call and listening. Petals. Children, what is this again? Very good. And this is the leaf. And this is what you call a stem. What is this again? Well done. Not very good on sitting down. Sit down. Okay.
At this point, I'd like to say our first code word would be tangent is the first code word. DRI is very effective. You can do it in the home setting. There are studies that show that when parents implement DRI, they're, you know, reinforcing the good behavior ignoring the bad behavior. And also in a school lunchroom, you can say from based on studies, the same thing happened. You reinforce the good behavior, you ignore the bad behavior. And, you know, it's very ethically good behavior intervention to use. So Bobby is 10. He's got ASD. He likes to take food off of other people's plates. When his replacement behavior is to not take food from other people's plates. When should Bobby receive reinforcement according to DRI? Is it A, when he takes food off another person's plate, B, when he asks to take food off someone's plate, or C, when he eats from his own plate only? When should Bobby get reinforcement? Well, the correct answer is C, when he eats from his own plate only.
Hey guys, it's Jennifer again. I'm going to be talking to you about differential reinforcement of alternative behaviors, or DRA. This is a very similar version of DRI. The alternative or rewarded behavior is not completely incompatible with the target problem behavior. For example, outbursts in class, and the target behavior would be raising your hand. So they can do one or the other or both at the same time. The idea is to distinguish the outbursts and increase the raise hand. It's used to reward different positive alternative behaviors. Reason for implementation: used to teach ecologically valid alternative behaviors, can increase social skills, and it is used oftentimes for self-regulation. Components of DRA can be used in multiple settings: schools, clinics, mental health facilities, and in the home. The intervention must have a functional alternative behavior, a reinforcer, and then fading should be used throughout the intervention. Procedures. First, you're going to conduct a preference assessment and a functional behavior assessment. This is to determine the function of the behavior you are trying to reduce or eliminate. You're going to collect data and create a timeline for collecting data. Select a behavior that the learner already exhibits. It must be meaningful, relevant, and useful to the individual. Establish a schedule of reinforcement, and usually at the beginning it's going to have to be continuous, but then as the intervention goes along, you can develop an intermittent schedule. For example, every 3 minutes or every 3 occurrences. It can be combined with functional communication training or extinction, and the idea is to withhold reinforcement when problem behaviors occur. So this is an example of, in a classroom setting, of a teacher using DRA with a student.
Differential reinforcement of alternate behaviors is simply reinforcing an appropriate alternative to the problem behavior and extinguishing the problem behavior through extinction. Here's an example of using extinction on crying, pushing, and grabbing, and reinforcing functional communication to get items.
Hey, what's this one? Apple. Pear. Banana. 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 Nana. Nana, there you go.
See how Miss Wish doesn't acknowledge his attempts to get the toy with crying, grabbing, and pushing? She prompts him to use a request and then immediately reinforces his response.
8. 8. Good, you found it. Nice job, buddy. Good job.
Watch here how Miss Wish uses extinction with Sarah when she screams to communicate that she wants to wash her hands.
Wash. You don't have to wash them yet. Let's wait. Mom, I need to wash my hands.
I need to wash your hair.
Say, I got paint on my finger.
See how Miss Wish only blocks Sarah from leaving the paint area. does not verbally acknowledge her screaming, and prompts her to use appropriate language to gain access to the activity of washing hands. Miss Wish combines extinction and a man procedure to teach a replacement behavior. This is differential reinforcement.
So I really like both those videos because it gives a really good representation of ignoring the problem behavior and then either physically prompting or just prompting verbally and rewarding the positive behavior. So before I continue, I'd like to give you code word number 2. Code word number 2 is random. So the effectiveness of intervention and implementation of DRA is first and foremost, teachers and anyone who's going to be implementing it, they must have appropriate training and the implementation must be consistent. DRA has been proven to be effective in promoting appropriate behaviors. There were multiple studies done from 2000 to 2015. All of the studies showed a positive impact at reducing problem behaviors when DRA was properly implemented. Again, it's all about training. So knowledge check. Number 1, which of these is needed in order for DRA to be effective? A, punishment. B, an alternative behavior. C, multiple teachers with no less than master's degrees. Or D, sensory rooms. And 2, which of these could be a functional alternative behavior to a problem behavior? A, hitting when wanting a drink, to yelling when wanting a drink. B, shouting out in class when responding to an answer, to hitting a desk in order to respond to an answer. C, hitting peer to ask for a toy, to pointing and saying please. Or D, throwing a chair when asked to sit, to screaming when asked to sit. You can pause it now and try to answer these. The answer for number 1 is B, an alternative behavior. And the answer for number 2 is C, hitting peer to ask for a toy. And the rewarded behavior or the positive behavior is pointing and saying please.
Hey y'all, so this is Taylor. I'm going to talk to y'all a little bit about differential reinforcement of low rates of responding, DRL. The purpose of DRL is to decrease, not eliminate, behavior by establishing an appropriate duration of the behavior to occur. And the reason for implementing this is the frequency and duration of a behavior is the decision factor. It's not necessarily because a behavior is occurring or necessarily because a behavior is unwanted. It's typically used for positive behaviors that are just happening too frequently, like asking to go to the bathroom or asking maybe they're happening too often. So the procedures for implementing DRL would be first to identify the behavior to decrease, then determine the rate or the duration that the behavior is occurring, create a goal for the rate of behavior to occur, identify the first appropriate duration or goal for the absence of that behavior, and then you want to reinforce the learner from meeting that behavioral goal and continue to lower the expectations for rates of the behavior occurring, while continuing to also reinforce meeting each goal as well. So that way you're kind of fading that out a little bit more. All right, and here is our video example of DRL. And in this video, you're going to see Sophie, the rat, decrease the frequency of Sophie pushing that bar down. And the light is used as a discriminative stimulus for pushing the bar and receiving reinforcement. When the light is not on, Sophie is not reinforced because Lisa is trying to increase waiting time to decrease the frequency of that behavior of hitting that bar.
Here you can see the light is on because we the bar is still. She then waits the full 6 seconds and the light will come on again before pushing the bar again.
You can see the light is on, so Lisa pushes the bar to receive food, but she does not wait the full 6 seconds before pushing the bar again and is therefore not reinforced.
All right, and next we're going to talk about the effectiveness of intervening in the intervention and implementation of DRL. And it's been found to be very successful and effective for lower rates of behavior. DRL can be implemented to decrease repetitive and restricted behaviors that aren't necessarily problem behaviors, but impeding on individuals' daily routines. So maybe that restrictive and repetitive behavior is just happening too frequently or it's happening too long. DRL can also be implemented for classroom management skills as well. For example, asking for the teacher's attention and using that DRL strategies to gain some independence. And those are two of those studies those are from. All right, next we have our next knowledge check. So, when is it appropriate to implement DRL procedures? A, when a problem behavior needs to be decreased and an alternative behavior needs to be increased. B, when a problem behavior needs to be decreased during a specific duration. Or C, when an appropriate behavior occurs too frequently. So I'll give you a minute so you can pause that. All right, and the correct answer is C, when an appropriate behavior occurs too frequently. All right, so we're going to talk about some ethics and differential reinforcement. And differential reinforcement is an effective and humane procedure for decreasing or eliminating maladaptive behaviors. There are no ethical or legal issues in using differential reinforcement procedures compared to other reductive techniques. Reinforcement occurs regardless of which procedure is used, thus encouraging and strengthening the use of other more appropriate behaviors. And this is a little chart here to show you how to select what appropriate intervention is necessary for the behavior that you're seeking to either increase or decrease. All right, and here are our references for our sources. And once again, just to wrap it up, we have 4 different differential reinforcement procedures: differential reinforcement of other behaviors, differential reinforcement of incompatible behaviors, differential reinforcement of alternative, and differential reinforcement of low rates behavior. And thank you so much for your time. I hope y'all were able to understand all the procedures of differential reinforcement. Thank you.